All right, and we're live. How's it going, everyone? If you're new, welcome, and if you're not new, welcome back to This Quiet Radio. My name is Sal, so I'm going to be your host here for the next 2 hours running down at WSJU Radio. This show is dedicated all to my love for music, and each week we'll be talking about a certain theme or topic that I center today's mix around. Today's episode, if you follow me on Instagram, is An Evening with Modern Alibi. Modern Alibi is a Charlotte, North Carolina-based band that makes innovative alternative indie punk. The band is currently in tour in support of their latest record, American Radio, which is dropped on April 4th. Modern Alibi has amassed a total of 300,000 monthly listeners, accumulated millions of streams, and have not too long ago opened up for the American Rejects. The group shared stages at North Carolina's Loving Life Festival that welcomed acts from the likes of Stevie Nicks, Post Malone, and Noah Kahan. Tomorrow they're set to play Manhattan's Mercury Lounge for their headline tour, but tonight they're here with me at WSJU Radio. We'll be taking you through a listen of their latest record while we take an exclusive interview and then close out with an intimate live acoustic set. Modern Alibi, welcome to His Quiet Radio.
Yo! What's up, Sal?
How's it going, everyone? I'm so glad I can have you guys here. I've never done anything like this before. I am just beyond excited to have you all on here.
We're stoked to be here, man.
Good. I'm so glad. We have a record to uncover. We're going to take everyone through track by track, which I loved, by the way. It was just awesome. I honestly don't delve into much of punk, let alone indie punk, so this was honestly great for my ears as well. It really showed me to a whole new side of music as well that I'm not really familiar with. I definitely lean more towards like indie alternative pop and R&B, but never to the punk direction, and I was in for a listen. It was really something that took me off guard first listen, but I gotta say, it's found its way into my rotations.
Awesome, dude. That's great to hear. I'm glad you like it, man.
You know, so this has been something we've been in the works of for like the past month now. I was looking at it the other day.
Yeah.
Got an email by you guys from Surprise, and since then we've just been going back and forth, but now we're here.
Yeah, I thought it was a good opportunity. You know, being in New York already, we're playing the Mercury Lounge tomorrow. And yeah, I thought it'd be a cool time to pop in if possible, and it just worked out. And yeah, it's sweet to be here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so obviously I'm here with a band, so how about we let you all introduce yourselves, okay? So we're going to start going to my right.
What's up? I'm Christian. I play drums for the band.
I'm Holden. I sing.
I'm Carter. I play the guitar.
I'm Josh, and I'm on bass.
And I'm Sal, but you already know that.
The legend.
Okay, before we even get into the music, let's talk about your relationship to music first, individually. So, I want to ask you guys a little question, taking you guys back to your past. What was the record that opened your guys' eyes to music? As, you know, we've all grown around music naturally and passively, but what was the experience that really exposed you to music and drew you into pursuing it?
Yeah, so I grew up super heavy into classic rock. So like 70s, 80s. My dad grew up in Jersey, so he was a big like Bon Jovi, Bruce Springsteen fan.
Bruce Springsteen.
But as a drummer, I was always a big fan of John Bonham, and so like Led Zeppelin 1 and 4 were like super influential. I thought his parts were incredible, and there were so many songs that I would hear and just want to go and learn it, and that's kind of what kicked off my drumming career.
Yeah, for me, kind of like Christian, I grew up on some classic rock stuff. The Beatles were huge for me. I was one of those kids who knew everything, every record, every song. But more recently, or I forget how old I am. I'm like when I was a teenager, I got super into the alt scene, which feels like recently, but it's actually not. But Vessel by 21 Pilots was a huge record for me that really sparked an interest in songwriting and getting, you know, my emotions down on a piece of paper and then onto a chord progression and eventually becoming a song that I wanted to play with a whole band. So yeah, that's probably my biggest one.
I have always loved alternative rock. The first album that really made me love music in general was Lazaretto by Jack White. But
Jack
even
White.
more than the album, the live footage of him just playing is what really made me want to pick up the guitar. It was so cool to watch and so inspirational, and I was like, I want to do that. I'm glad I decided to.
Yeah, so I'm kind of like, I always feel like I'm an oddball out when it comes to like inspiration and music. Like I actually came up on like video game music. I played a lot of. It really made me want to start. What I really like is the harmony and the types of instruments used, and especially like the Zelda games growing up.
Okay, shout out Zelda.
Yeah, I played Wind Waker as a kid, and I would just hear like the different types of cultural stuff they would add in, the melodies, and as a bass player specifically, like, you know, focusing on the low end and the harmony, it's like, I think that's kind of one of my biggest strengths, and it definitely came from, like, you know, me as a kid sitting behind the TV, playing Zelda, and just listening to the music and all that stuff, so.
I can totally relate to that. Not directly with Zelda, but within that Nintendo universe.
Yeah.
I grew up in Pokemon.
Oh, dude, the music is insane. Yeah.
I think of the Castelia City theme.
Oh, dude.
From Black and White. I just remember
Black and White
being a kid, and like my mom would yell at me, like, go clean the room, get off the game. I would like, okay. I'd literally fly myself over into that city just so I could hear that theme, and I'd prop it up, and I'd just go in and clean the room. Love this. Such widespread answers. But we have so many more ahead. But first, we have a record to tackle into. So we're going to get this kick started off with the opening track. This is Everybody In? Okay, and we're back. So you just got done listening to Somewhere Far Away, which has honestly grown to become one of my favorites upon the record. Tell me a little bit about it.
That's one of my favorites as well. I'm glad you said that. It's for me, it's my Killers inspired track. I love the Killers so much.
Totally could hear that inspiration.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
for sure. I wanted a song like that for a long time, and this one ended up being it. It took a while to write. It's one of those that takes a few months to finally get out the way that I wanted it to. But yeah, it's one of my favorites for sure.
So you guys debuted in 2022, but you guys released your first single, 70s, in 2023. I was hoping if you guys can take us behind the inception of the band, because this happened presumably during your teenage years, and really take me behind through the thought process of starting the band, the origin of the name Modern Alibi, and the risk that felt like for, honestly, kids, you know, being like, okay, let's go, let's create a band, let's make music, and we want to put it out there and share it with the people.
For sure, yeah. So the band name, we'll talk about that, Modern Alibi, that came from just, I knew I wanted two words that when they came together, they meant something completely new.
Okay.
And I always admired that about bands who it's everyday words that you would hear, but when they're together, you just immediately think of the band. And I'm pretty sure I got the name Modern from the Modern Love by David Bowie. I was a big Bowie guy.
Bowie.
Yeah. And then Alibi, probably from Mr. Brightside or Hotel California Eagles. There's a lyric about 1960, whatever that line is, 1969, Alibi, something okay. In there. And I just merged them together. I thought it sounded cool. I was like, you know what, there isn't a whole lot of meaning in this, but that's what my job's gonna be, is to give it meaning. So that's my answer that I've been saying. I tried to come up with an artistic answer about, like, what is alibi, like the Latin roots of that word. What does that mean? It means elsewhere. It's like two words.
It's just as honest as it actually is. You know what I'm saying? Came across you through a song and you wanted to give something new meaning. I think that's awesome. Yeah. But now, tell me behind, though, what it was like for you to start a band at your guys' ages.
Yeah, so I began the band in 2021, and the three guys that are sitting with me joined a little bit later. But when I first started the band, it was really just me writing music.
Solo act.
Yeah, it was a solo act, and I didn't want to be a solo act. I wanted to have some guys, and we had some people join the band that were, great people, great musicians. But finally, these three guys that we got here with us are full, like, this is plan A, it's actually, they don't have a plan B. Like, this is what they want to do with their lives, music, and we're all on the same page. And I'm lucky to be in such have such great guys, making this dream come true for me. But so 70s in particular, I wrote just as a kid sitting in my parents' basement, just trying to figure out a song that I liked. I wanted to just make a song that I would enjoy. And I think I drew some inspiration from, Neon Trees and the Killers, like the synthy Killer sound. And it's just a fun pop rock track. I wanted to try to just explore my sound. I didn't know what the Modern Alibi sound was yet. And I still don't even think that I don't. I'm always trying to search for what that is. But at the time, I had no clue. I was like, let's just make music and see what happens. But it ended up being a fun track, and I think I can speak for all of us. It's one of our favorites to play.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
No doubt.
For sure.
Absolutely. But now, though, to the rest of the band, though. So what I'm learning, though, is that you guys came along later on the way. What was that like when, you were presented with this opportunity and when, you all met Holden? What was that like to really trust the vision of, you guys all had the same goal, but you guys all came from different places? What was that like to be like, okay, I'm going to go through with this. This might be a risk, but this also could be great. What was that like?
It was kind of a weird circumstance because just by having, like, the bass player that Holden had that just didn't work out for a show, and he was like, well, shoot, we have a gig this weekend, a 3-hour gig, and we're cooked. We don't have a bass player. So he hit me up, and I'm like, yeah, like, let me do it. Let's see what it's like. I was doing session stuff at the time, so just freelance, playing bass, playing guitar, that stuff all around. And yeah, I said yeah, and then I got in rehearsals, and I'm like, I haven't played this type of music in so long. Like, this feels incredible. Like, and then we did the gig, and I was cheesing the whole time, just had the best time ever. I'm like, yeah, I think this is it. Like, clearly Holden is like, has his stuff together too, It's really valuable having a front man who can, really stand on business and have their idea be their idea and their vision be their vision. And I just trusted that. So I was like, yeah, like, let me see if this could be it for me. And thankfully it was.
Absolutely. And
for sure. Yeah. So Josh and I actually go back. We were a part of the same kind of music community of young kids with a similar instructor. And so we kind of just played with a bunch of local bands, or you'd play like one-off shows here and there. Mm-hmm. And then, again, going back to my classic rock roots, I was just playing with a lot of local tribute bands because the opportunities were there in the area I was living. And then when I met Holden at an open mic at one of our local venues in Charlotte, and they played an Arctic Monkeys song, they played one of their own original songs when it was in like the demo phase, and then they played like a Harry Styles song, and I heard his voice, I heard the style, and I was like, dude, that is so much fun. And one of his biggest inspirations is 21 Pilots with Josh Dunn and Tyler Joseph, and that's also like my all-time favorite band. I idolize those guys. So we kind of connected on that early on, and then it just happened that like at the time they were going through the transition period with their bass player and their drummer. And so I got to jam with the guys, and it was kind of the same way. I played the show, and I was just like cheesing the whole time because the songs were just really refreshing, and you don't get that opportunity very much in Charlotte to get to play that style of music.
That chemistry that just locks perfectly into place. That kind of lets you all know that we found something, and it's worth preserving. It's worth nurturing. And lastly,
I'm the newest member of the group. I've actually only been in the band for just hit over a year.
Okay.
So
happy anniversary to that.
Yeah, very new. But the story was interesting of how I met Holden. We had a mutual friend at the time, and I had started my own band, and we were playing around, but it wasn't like, this wasn't everybody's commitment in the band. And so I was starting to branch out and play with more people, and just like, okay, well, I'll just try everybody that I can. And Holden reached out to me because you guys needed a cover for a show, and we were going to be at the same house party, and my band was going to be playing, and the mutual friend was the singer of the band, and so Holden was like, oh, I'll just talk to the guitar player. I didn't know the age difference. I thought he didn't know either, because when I told him my age, he was like, oh. So it's, I was 16 at the time.
Okay.
And to me, I didn't care. But Holden, being 23, was like, is this the right move?
We were about to go on tour. That's I was like, we were gonna go to New York. We were gonna go on this big run, and it was weeks before. And I was like, we were all like, we need a guitar player like immediately. And when I just didn't know if that was like okay, and ended up being fine. So
well, and also a 16-year-old playing house parties isn't really the most, like rock solid. Yeah, like you want somebody on, that looks a little more reliable. But they gave me a shot. They let me rehearse with them a little bit, and I was able to prove myself.
Dude, you weren't just, you were not a 16-year-old playing house shows. You were a badass guitar player at 16.
I was,
what I mean? So
I was trying. So I'm glad that I found the people that are just as dedicated as me.
Sounds like, for lack of better words, that everybody was in, actually, which actually is a perfect callback to my next question, because much like your record, you open your shows with Is Everybody In? It's a bold opener, it's quick on its feet, and it serves as a way to get the crowd going. Did you guys always know that this was going to be the opening track when composing the track list? And despite it being the opener, when was the track made in sequence to the others?
I think we just realized that it was a good opener, because we've opened with other stuff in the past before. We've had like some cool like intro tracks into other songs, but something about that song is when I wrote it, it's my punk rock song. You know, it's like it's that fast paced like Fall Out Boy, or you know, I Bet You Look Good on the Dance Floor is like a huge inspiration for that song in particular. And something about especially if you know it, when you just open the show with just some hard-hitting, you know, fast-paced punk rock, it just works. So
we were talking to Keon earlier about like some of the stuff that like he was asking us about the shows and like, you know, if we ever get nervous, and we're like, well, at this point we've played the song so many times, we spend a lot of time like at the show like thinking like, okay, what is the audience doing right now? Like, are they vibing to this? Like one time we had a show and we came in with Reservoir, and it sounded great and it was a good vibe, but like people in the audience were like, cool. Like
for the first like 30 seconds,
and then we did another show and we opened with Everybody Is Everybody In, and the vibes were just insane. Yeah, we were like, this is
absolutely. It contains that energy.
Yeah.
You know, you can hear it right away when you get into this record, that it makes you want to come see more about it. And also, it's genuinely a question: are you in for the next 38 minutes of this record? We have a ride to take you on, but are you in? I love that so much, and it sounds like through trial and error you figured out what worked and what didn't. But just as a reiteration, when you were making this album, though, did the opening track come first within the process? Where was this made in between?
So the oldest song on the record is Silver Spoon, and that was released in 2022. I released it as a single, and then we released it in an EP. So the song has had 3 separate releases.
Okay.
And they definitely weren't made in order. But I do believe that every record, you know, needs an order. And like you said, you know, kicking off the record with high energy, you know, it seems to be the way to go. And I feel like the album, you know, based on the vibes of each song, kind of goes through, it kind of has an arc, and then it has like at the end of it kind of has like its big moment. So no, they definitely weren't made in order, but I do feel very confident about the order of the songs, and I think it kind of makes it a cool experience from start to finish.
Absolutely. And what can you tell us about this next track we're about to get into, Scarlet?
This one was writing-wise a little different, because I wrote it in about, you know, I don't know, 5 hours. It's weird. I just sat down and it just came out. It's one of those songs that just writes itself. And it's not about Scarlett is a fictional character. It's not a real person, but the feelings are absolutely real, and maybe that's why it kind of feels like it wrote itself. So
we'll let y'all hear some of that magic as we get into the next track. This is Scarlett. All right, so that was Boy You Better, which was one of my first favorites at first, and after we had first spoken about it, Holden and I, you said that that's your favorite off the record.
Yeah, I keep jumping around, but it was an early one that went through many phases, and I had to make the decision if it was going to be on the record. It kind of quickly, like at the end, and I realized that, you know what, this is a very different song. It's not your typical, you know, verse chorus song, and that's why I like it, is because it's a little bit odd in that way. Everything from tempo changes to just, you know, different. I don't know. It doesn't really feel like a specific genre. But that's why I like it. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's catchy. It totally caught me, you know, first listen through. Then the first couple times things started to change, and I feel like every week now I've been listening to this record, it's been changing. And I would say, as of where I'm at right now, I would probably say I can't put them in order, but my top 3 definitely has to be Drifter, Out of You, and Reservoir. They literally all fight themselves by the hour, you know? So if you were to ask me literally an hour ago, I would have told you easily it would have been Reservoir, but literally right before you guys came in, I was like, Drifter. Like, the instrumentation on this record is just absolutely awesome. I wanted to ask, though, for all of you, though, do you feel like that your favorites sort of stay at this bias or like at this fixed portion, or do you feel like as, you know, you guys are taking this music on the road, and as, you know, it's just having more time to sit and metastasize with you all, that, you know, there's this sort of fluidity with what you like, that it's kind of changing as the days go on.
Yeah, it definitely changes for me, especially bringing these songs to life at the live shows. You notice different things with the way that different crowds react to certain parts, and it at least for me, I grew an appreciation for a lot of things. Like Boy You Better has turned into one of my favorites to play live, like especially with that drastic tempo change in the very middle. The crowd just loses their mind, and the people that don't know the song, it's still one of those moments that's like, oh my goodness, something's happening, and this is crazy. And then Holden starts rapping, and it's awesome.
I do, yeah. Random rap verse in the middle of a rock and roll album.
Heck yeah.
You gotta have it.
I think one thing that really, for me personally, like my favorite song to play changes constantly, because when we're rehearsing for the live shows, oftentimes we'll do a completely different arrangement of the song.
Okay.
So we'll add like a little solo section, or we'll change up how the bridge sounds. And for me, it's like being a player, it's just so cool, just like having a breath of fresh air, playing this song for the 70th time or 100th time or 50 millionth time, still getting to do it differently, So I mean, it's really cool. It's really cool. And it also just, the live show is just so much more energy when we get to do stuff like that. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I actually have a very similar story to you, because when I joined the band, it was before the album came out, but the album had already existed.
Okay.
So these guys, were there during the process. They've heard all the different versions of the songs, and they had been playing them live, where I was, just listening to the album for the first time, I was like, my favorites were changing, and I was like, part of me was, just listening to the music for the music, and then the other part of me was like, okay, I gotta learn these parts.
Mm-hmm.
So I was with you. Boy You Better and Reservoir. Reservoir's always been...
I can't wait. I literally just can't wait to get to that track.
But it was so cool. Rehearsing with them for the first time, it's never the same live. Whether it's a small change or a huge change, we're always switching up intros, bridges, or just, improvising.
Yeah, and the way people react to it too, it's changes.
Yeah, exactly.
So I feel like you guys kind of already preemptively asked one of my other questions, but I guess to rephrase it, I guess what I was wondering about is, last night you kicked off this tour, you played your first night in Philly, but as you were saying, playing these songs over and over, I was sort of wondering at first, you get the excitement from the crowd, you're playing the same song, it's the same lyrics. How do you break this sort of feeling of like a hamster wheel? Like, what do you do to make things differently? But it sounds like you guys were telling me about it, that it's these different changes, right? But I guess to dive on it more though, how do you feel like you break this feeling of like constant routine when it comes to being on tour?
Well, I think because every place we play is different, and there's always a different crowd, and also you never know what's going to happen. Every show seems to be unique. Like in Philly, I'll just say it, we had some technical difficulties. And we have a light show that goes along with our tracks, that's playing in our ears with a click. So there's a lot of technology going on, and every band runs into an issue every once in a while, and it ended up being a power issue. And but so for the first two songs, I think that our equipment, we just had to play raw. We had to just play the four of us until we got our light show back. And it was just an honest moment, honestly. And I have to keep reminding myself that anytime something unique happens at a show, whether it's good or whether you think it's not so good, from a performance standpoint, because we're musicians, we want everything to go perfectly. But if something doesn't go perfect, it's not always a bad thing, because people that come to see their favorite band want to see them be real. They want to see a real human experience.
Absolutely.
And seeing us trying to problem solve and troubleshoot and figure out what's going on and how to fix it while we're still putting on a show is interesting. And when I see my favorite bands, I'm not hoping that anything goes wrong, but at the same time, I do want to see something unique for my show. So I think as long as we're there and just doing our thing and having a good time with it, and not losing that spark, it's always a good time, and everything's always unique.
Absolutely. To touch a little bit back on what you were saying before, that working through problems in real time, that even though if it's not what's preferred, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. One thing I always tell myself is that rejection is in fact actually just redirection. That through things not going as intended, it honestly sometimes can teach us better things about ourselves. It teaches us how we can problem solve, how we even manage our own stress and our own response time, and how efficiently can I, get back on course from something going astray, The more that, we veer off of what's preferred, we figure out how to better manage, these circumstances. To advance, though, to the next question, though, I was sort of wondering that, throughout your career so far, you've opened up for the All-American Rejects, you've amassed over 300,000 listeners on Spotify, and you've shared festivals, alongside the likes of Stevie Nicks, Noah Kahan. However, though, to draw it back a bit, what do you feel like was that first genuine sign of success that made you feel like, okay, I think I'm getting somewhere with this? And it's like you're starting to feel like my dreams are not that far away.
I feel like stuff like that, like milestone things, like when we played the Love and Life Festival in Charlotte, it felt huge. It was like we felt on top of the world.
We had never played for that many people, and there was a good 2,000 people.
I can see it was incredible.
It was like,
It feels like such a, oh my God, like we made it moment, and then Stevie Nicks hits the on a different stage. It's like I can't believe where we are right now. But then the very next week we play a dive bar. And then we're back to our roots. It's a humbling experience, and we experience it so many times. But I like it because it feels like just recently we played some sick venues in North and South Carolina, like the Orange Peel in Asheville and the House of Blues in Myrtle Beach.
Right.
And we opened for one of my favorite bands of all time. I don't know how, but they found me. And it was something that I've been wanting to do since I started the band. And then the very next day, we go back home and we hit the dive bar and we play for 3 hours, in this sweaty bar. And it's so I think that with every bit of success that we have in the form of a show or a festival, it always they start to add up, and we realize now, like, wow, like as you've been saying, it's like, wow, we have done a lot of things, but it's so they come in small sparks, I guess, yeah. But so it never feels like, oh yeah, we're crushing it always, It feels like little moments.
Do you feel like that there's already a sense of nostalgia as it's already happening, that as you're returning to the dive bars after completing these milestones, that do you start feeling a little bit of this sense of, I might not be doing this for much longer. I might not be returning to the dive bars much longer. So do you feel like that you're already reminiscing the memories as you're making them?
A little bit. Like I'm curious about what you guys think, but every single time I play a dive bar, I always wonder, like, is this the last time? We've been doing this
for sure
years. We've been doing this since before I was allowed to be in the bar. Like I when I was 18 years old, I walked up there for the first time and I'm like, do you guys need live music? And they're like, how old are you? 18? No. And I was like, no, well, legally I can work here if I don't serve alcohol. They're like, all right, landed the gig, proved ourselves, and then we have been doing it since then. But every single time we play, once we start, we got a booking agent. Now we're able to play a little bit bigger shows. Mm-hmm. I always wondered, hey, is this the last time? They're hard to play. They're 3 hours. They take a lot out of us. But honestly, it's home, and it's where we grew up, and it's our hometown, and it's where we've gotten a lot of opportunities. But yeah, I always wonder, like, do you guys think that too?
I'm going to be honest. To me, like, truly modern, like, in my head, modern Alibi is Gin Mill and Brickyard in Charlotte. Like, those are the two spots we hit the most. That was the first gig I did when I was not even in the band. I was filling in.
Right.
And it was just like I said, that first experience, I was smiling so hard the whole time. And yeah, now to still be playing there 3 years later, I don't see that as a bad thing, because it's like, yeah, we play it now. It's so, I think back to 2023 and 2022 when we had no click or no tracks, and we're playing everything raw, and we're just going up there and having fun. And yeah, it is a little bit different now, because now we go and we bring our trailer and we load up our lights and our giant glow up sign and our subs and all that. And yeah, it's still a great experience, but I would definitely say there's some nostalgia from now versus then.
It's an experience thing. Like those shows, because we're playing 3 hours, we never go in with a set list for those shows either. We will just show up and we just know our catalog of songs, and we'll kind of feel out the crowd a little bit. And some of those experiences and moments that we learned there reflect onto our actual headlining shows. Like last night, we're having tech issues. We're trying to figure out on the spot, like, okay, what can we play? What can we not? And we've definitely been there so many times at those dive bar shows, so it just kind of comes naturally.
Muscle memory.
Yeah, and you're able to just, like, the show has to continue, and I think we learn a lot of that.
Those shows keep us tight. You know
For
what I
sure.
mean? You know,
For
playing
sure.
playing every weekend at the the Charlotte neighborhood bar is that's the experiences that are going to keep us humble, but also like on top of our chops and our playing.
Those shows, I'm just agreeing with you what you guys said, definitely keep us tight. And especially for me, that was my second show with you guys, was one of those small bars. And for me, that was where most of the chemistry was established, because I was still like, I had just met you guys. I played my first show with you guys 10 days after I met you. And then the dive bar was 3 hours just there to have fun. You guys were like, oh, it's we don't go in with a set, we just let the night flow how it flows. And it was just so fun, and I always love going back and doing this.
It's that feeling of, coming back home that also, as you're saying, it grounds you, and not only does it humble you, but it's a return to the roots that also helps you sort of bring, what you were taking from these shows. Of being on the road, you get to bring that love back to home, and, even I think, you have that comfortability, you're comfortable at home, these are your people, this is your state. It really does influence the show and the music. But, you're saying that this is only your second time here. What can we expect tomorrow for a New York show?
Yeah, we're just gonna do what we know. We're gonna play our show. We got our set list. We have our lights working, hopefully, and we're just gonna go play as hard as we can. And it's every song. I'll spoil that. It's every song that we have. We're not gonna miss
And more.
any of them, and more exactly. And some songs that if somebody happens to come to the show that doesn't know a single Modern Alibi song, they're gonna leave with hearing a song that they know. So.
Yeah.
We've made sure of that. But I just can't wait. I mean, New York City, it's crazy to think that, we get to play a headlining show here. And, especially after last night in Philly, hearing people knowing our songs, just the energy in New York is just something else. So I can't wait.
Absolutely, And now, getting back to this record, there'll be fall in now along the midpoint of the record with lyrics that don't even rhyme. Now we're into the later half of the record. Tell me about this song.
This is the cutest song on the record. I say that every time we play it, because it's you gotta have a song in a major key in every record, and this is that one. And it sounds like a love song, but it's not. And it's I don't know. There's a lyric in there about she gets the words wrong every time, tripping over lyrics that don't even rhyme. And there's that may or may not be about somebody who refuses to learn my lyrics. And it's a diss track at the end of the day. No, not really. But it's just a fun song. But yeah, hope you guys enjoy it.
Let's take it away. This is lyrics that don't even rhyme. Okay, and we're back. And my mic is definitely way too pitched up. So you just got done listening to Taste It, Reservoir, and Out of You, with Reservoir and Out of You just being definitely my tops, as we were saying before. I need to talk about Reservoir. How did that track come about? How is it recording it? How is it writing it? Just tell me everything.
So Reservoir was the first track that I experimented writing with a visual in mind already. I was watching the movie Reservoir Dogs, the Tarantino movie, and I was like, if I was in charge of writing or scoring a soundtrack for a movie like this, what would it sound like? And something about this, whatever the metaphor is for the song that you want to have in your head, it's about it's about mafia dudes trying to having a run-in with whoever you want in your imagination. But it's just got the vibe, and I was like, if I were hired onto a movie to write a soundtrack, this is what it would sound like. And I think it's got this swagger to it. It's got this feeling about it that's kind of like, let's go. Let's do what's got to be done. Whatever that thing is, it's going to happen. So that's just it's a silly song.
Absolutely.
Honestly, it's there's no.
I think swagger really is the only word to describe it. You know, it like almost reeks of the sense of like confidence and ego. You know, that's I think what drew me in about it. I love music that I think makes me feel confident, makes me feel good. And I was like getting ready just for like literally just the day, and like this came on, and I was like, it's giving me a pep in me, you know? I love what it brought, you know? But Out of You, though, progressing to the next track, though, tell me about this one.
Josh, what's Out of You about?
Wow.
Struck a nerve there.
No. Out of You, again, it's again just a fun track. It's got a similar feeling about it. I've always wanted a particular drop that we achieve in Out of You, and I always thought it would be cool to have this consistent groove going for most of the song, and then just straying away from that entirely. And I like the way it turned out. It drops to just a guitar solo with nothing else in it. It drops to just Carter, and then once he hits this little lick, we all drop in to like just this very heavy riff, and it goes from like this like alternative kind of grooving feel to it gets heavy.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's one of our favorites to play live, is because the people who know the song in the crowd, they know it's coming. Mm-hmm. Because to somebody who doesn't know the song, it's kind of like, okay, I can kind of get down with this, and then it kind of blindsides you at the end. But to people who know it's coming, it's like they're like just ready. It's like this consistent rise, and like, okay, the drop's coming, and then when it comes, everybody just loses their mind, and that's why it's one of my favorites to play live.
Absolutely, and I can surely tell you as a listener that, you know, that drop is exactly what I love about this song so much. You know, it takes you off guard, and it completely invites you into something new, and it really just gets you so riled up. You know, I love these big solos that come in songs. I think what comes to mind of some of my favorite solos ever might be The Chain, Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah. That's awesome you say that. We used to play that song.
Yeah. We got to bring it back.
Oh, yeah.
That might be a sign. I don't know what to tell you. But, yeah, you know, absolutely. I think of, like, these epic solos, and, like, immediately thought back to that when I was listening to this. I just loved everything about this track, about these past two so much. So for tomorrow's show, though, to touch on another group of individuals, the band Light. You know, you have some great support, really talented band, incredible vocalist. How did that collaboration come to be?
We love those guys.
Dude, they're amazing.
Yeah.
They are amazing.
Incredible.
First off, also have to touch on the fact that I think they have the best, with all due respect, the best, like, Harry Styles influence on them.
Yes,
it is like avant-garde with, I think, what they're burning, and I love the vocals. I was just loving all of their singles that they had so far. Dreamboat, I'm crazy about. Their Christmas song. It's awesome stuff, you know, perfect in time for the season too. So how did you get connected to them?
We posted on Instagram before one of our hometown headlining shows, and we said, who do you want to open the show? Because we genuinely didn't know. We didn't have anybody in mind, and we just wanted to hear who people wanted. And oh my God, like the amount of the band Light fans that were in our comments and on TikTok, like trying to make this happen, it was kind of a no-brainer. So we connected with them for the first time at a venue called the Visualite Theater for one of our hometown shows in August of this year. And we got to meet them in person, and they always make they always say how Modern Alibi and the band Light is like One Direction and 5 Seconds of Summer. They said that since the start. Like they'd be tagging us in posts and being like, guys, it's like the One Direction, the Midnight Memories tour with 5 Seconds of Summer. So we like took group pictures like those bands did. Honestly, one of the coolest things about them is, you know, I mean, especially because these are our headlining shows. Like we don't care if they're. Not only do we not care, we prefer them being around, like in green rooms and stuff, because they're just so. It's like it feels like just a group of friends, all of us. It doesn't feel like two separate bands.
Dude, when we are in the green, like last night, it felt like we were all just in the same band. Like
really
we were just chilling in the green room last night, and it was such a small green room, but we didn't care. We were like just all huddled in there, just like going out the door, just talking for like 3 hours because we had so much time to spend.
I saw that they joined you all literally on stage after the show.
Oh yeah.
During the show, near the close and everything, you guys were all just jumping around having a great time.
We started doing that because they hype up the crowd so much, and that's what we love about them. And we did that back in August. We played Titanium by Sia, and we had them yeah, they crashed the stage, and we told them to, and it was so hype. And we're like, if we do this on tour, we gotta do this at every show. It's supposed to be a surprise, but I'm spoiling it. But yeah, they're awesome. We love those guys.
Absolutely, shout out to them. As we're nearing the end of this record, though, we're approaching a song that has been out for quite some time, Silver Spoon. Since its release, and just throughout everything, and through the motions of, making this record, touring, meeting all these new people, having all these new connections, how has this song taken on new meaning or new life in a way? And does it resonate just the same, or do you feel like it feels like almost like a past version of yourself?
This song is insane to me to think about because I began writing it when I was like 17, and it was my first attempt at an alternative rock song, and it still didn't feel done to me. I didn't know when it was supposed to be done because I'd never really completed a song, and I just kept writing and revising it and changing everything about it, adding guitar licks. And then finally I had this piece of music and I was like, is it done? I don't know if it's done. So we started playing it and I still just didn't know if it was done because I'd never completed anything musically before. And it's crazy to me how the song that I was least confident about turned into the song that I'm most confident playing on stage because it just from the numbers, it seems as though it's people are liking it the most or streaming it the most. So that's at a certain point it clicked to me. I'm like, you know what? It is done. This is the song, and nothing else needs to happen to it. And that's a big thing for writing with me is like, how do I know when a song is supposed to be completed? Like, how do I'm the only person that can determine whether it's done or not. And I think it's the first time you play it in front of people and they receive it in the way that they do and are really enjoying it and are streaming it up like this. It's like, okay, we've reached an ending point and this is the way it needs to be. And of course, as a songwriter, I look back at even songs on American radio and I'm like, I wish I would have done this or I should have done this. But then it's like, you know what? No, this is how it was released. This is the song. This is the way it was supposed to be. I would never go back and change a song that already exists.
Absolutely.
Except for Boy You Better.
Boy You Better.
Boy You Better used to have a completely different version that sounded completely different back in 2023. And it's been a running joke in the band that it used to sound, the very first version of it is what it sounds like right now.
Okay.
But I got afraid of that version because it was so different. It had a tempo change, a rap verse. I was like, no, it needs to be more commercial because people like commercial things. So I changed it and I wrote something completely dishonest to myself. And it was out there for a while, and then I was like, you know what? If I'm going to make a record, I want to be completely honest and have this song the way it was supposed to be. So we brought it back. But there were some people that were like, hey, where'd the other version go? I kind of liked it.
There's a whole group of fans that will do anything to hear that version again. But
man, never see the light of day.
maybe one day. But yeah, probably. I mean, it's not. I like the song, but if I had to choose between the two, obviously I'd choose the one that I really believe in. So.
And we don't have much left before we get to the acoustic set. So let's get back to the music. This is Silver Spoon. All right, and there you have it. So that was our concluding track and the title track, American Radio, which concludes this record. Tell me about the title track. It's supposed to summarize the album, and it comes at the end, right? So it's meant to be this conclusion. Do you feel like it resonates well, and why the title American Radio?
Yeah, so American Radio, to me, what it means is navigating the music industry feels impossible at times, and we're doing it and figuring it out. But I don't think anybody really knows what they're doing. I mean, we've run into some bands that are a lot bigger than we are, and everybody says the same thing: is they, even getting success, you don't really know how it happened. You just work hard. And I think that there's a bit of a fear with musicians and myself that, like, what happens if it doesn't work out? What if we put all this work in, and what if it doesn't end up, being what I hoped it would be? But what's even scarier than that is just not even trying. So I think American Radio it's almost a conversation between a younger version of myself and an older version of myself. And they're talking to each other, and the younger version is asking, hey, is this, is everything going to be okay? Is this going to work out? Is music going to work out? And it doesn't have to be just music. It can be anything. It could be a relationship, just a general state of being. Is it going to be okay? And the older person, you know, in this in the song, you know, he's just being honest. You know, like maybe it didn't. You know, but American radio is, if you take the term literally, you know, it's different than the way it used to be. You know, it's not dead by any means, but it's you know, people are streaming at music now. It's just everything's changing. So things, at the end of the day, things aren't exactly what you might have thought that they were going to be. When I started this band, you know, of course we want to be playing, you know, arenas and stadiums like any band has this dream of doing. But, you know, if that doesn't end up happening, I feel like we have gained so much experience from doing this and learning about ourselves, and you know, that's just so, you know, it's priceless. You know, it's like you can't gain this in any other way. What we're doing for music in particular, and yeah, I feel like American radio is just about growing and learning about yourself, and learning that things might not always be exactly, you know, how you planned, but learning to enjoy it and figure yourself out along the way.
Really incredible answer. As we're talking about the different ways now that music is digested, you know, we're talking about making music and releasing it in the streaming age. Speaking of streams, though, there has been such an overwhelming response in the numbers even to this. And, you know, as we've been hosting a giveaway for tickets to tomorrow's show, stay tuned for details about that, I have been seeing the response of some of your fans, you know, posting their Spotify Wraps, the amount of minutes that these people are amassing. Your fans, you guys have titled now Drifters, which was the name of the previous song. Take us through that. What was the thought process behind that?
It was a lot of things. Like I don't even remember what I do remember this was a conversation we had in Holden's basement rehearsing. We were I think we were listening to Drifter, and we were just like, we were talking about, like, you know, we were imagining like lore for the album, and like it almost as if there was like this dystopian fake world that we were writing about. And I think there's just something about, like, you know, there's this dystopian idea of everyone's just a drifter, just, you know, souls drifting around, you know, experiencing life and everything, and it just sounded cool too, you know, like.
Absolutely. You know, much like we were talking about off air a second ago, I was talking about the fact that when you put music out there, and that it's going to take on so many different meanings, and it's going to find people in all different paths of their journey. I mean, it found you guys here to New York. It found you here tonight, you know. I think this idea of the drifter being someone going through the motions of life, and they're coming along the way. You don't know how long they're staying. You don't know how long you're staying.
Exactly.
But we're all just here right now in the moment, and I think that's what's awesome. This has been an incredible record to listen to. I love the opportunity to just sit down and talk about this, and we still have more. So now you guys do have a little acoustic set to bring.
We do. We're going to play a few songs. We're going to play Sal's favorite songs off the records.
Yeah, I know that's right. So we're going to get to that. We're going to let you guys set up. We're going to enter a brief intermission, and then we'll come right back with it, okay? So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back in a bit. All right? Let's take it back to the music.